team, Mike here at After 40 Fitness and after40fitness.ca. Another great question came up today in social media, and I'm going to jump on this one because, I did a little bit of a search through some of the Facebook forums, and dry fasting. Dry fasting gets asked about all the time. There's enough information, aka misinformation, about dry fasting circulating that, well, here's by way of the questions that drove this video. Here's a couple of examples. Hey, ladies, between dry fasting and fasting while drinking lots of water, which is best for weight loss? Great question. Wouldn't you like to know? How about this one? I just heard that doing dry fast has a more quicker result than wet fast. Now, the question is, I was thinking of doing OMAD on a dry fast and seeing the magic tricks. That's what I mean by, is it misinformation? What truly is the result? Are there risks? Are there things you and I should know about dry fasting? How about this one? Are you likely to see more results when dry fasting or water fasting? I drink water when I fast, but probably not as much as I should, so I'm just wondering which is better when it comes to results. Pretty much the same thing. Can we talk about dry fasting? I'm about to start my first 24-hour dry fast after tonight's meal, and I need some motivation. I love water and coffee, and I'm nervous. However, I've heard you're actually less hungry, and that for some reason during dry fast you produce a lot of heat as opposed to water fasting where you freeze all day. I got to deal with this. This is misinformation. Dry fasting is a wonderful tool in your toolkit. It's another arrow in your quiver. But to think that it's, right, the last one said any magic from it. This one here, is there less hunger? Is there more heat? Let's touch on those things. Let's look at some science. I'm going to tell you something. I have a piece of new science from April of this year that will blow you away about dry fasting. So let's get into the nuances of it, the pros and cons, the realities versus the falsehoods. And we'll get after that right now. But first, before I do, if this is your first time to my channel or you haven't yet, you need to subscribe. All right, like the video, punch the subscribe button and subscribe to the video, or in any Facebook group that you belong to, someone else about dry fast. And this is one you're going to want to have the link saved as a favorite so you can share. Because by the time I'm done, you're going to know way more than I promise you do right now about dry fasting. Let's get the ball rolling with just a quick definition of what dry fasting is. I'm going to put up here on the screen in front of you of the definition that I like most. I don't want there to be any misunderstandings about what dry fasting is. Notice Tony Weidman's explanation of what dry fasting is. He says, I agree, it sounds self-explanatory. I would say dry fasting is a long-forgotten healing, health, and wellness technique. The dry fast is a true fast. No food, no water, period. Doesn't sound healthy, right? Well, there's a method to this seeming madness. Dry fast has been perfected and practiced by many cultures and religions throughout history. It's really funny. You jump into social media or any form of any kind, and people will act like it's this new thing that we just came up with it since 2010. It's got a little bit of a fad nature to it. It's a new fad. You do some research, people are going to call it a fad diet. It has been around for millennia. I mean thousands of years that cultures and religions throughout history have used fasting and dry fasting. So there are two popular types of dry fasting. Again, our first piece of misinformation. Hard and soft dry fasting is very popular. With the hard dry fast, the faster does not even allow water to touch their bodies. None. When dry fasting, the pores of the skin absorb water from contact with the environment. As you can imagine, the soft dry fast allows the participant to drink water during the fast. It doesn't. Okay, I'm going to conclude something in just a second. The presence of water lessens the beneficial and the uncomfortable effects of dry fasting, but allows the faster to fast for longer periods of time. Okay, so the difference between hard and dry is exposure to water. So a soft dry fast is where I still brush my teeth and I'll still shower. So the premise behind it is that the amount of water you'll absorb from brushing your teeth, so sublingually, or from showering is so trivial as to be moot, right? It's inconsequential. A dry faster says, yeah, but it could be some. It could be, an ounce, let's say, by showering, or it could be a couple of drops via brushing your teeth, and I want to avoid that completely. God bless you. Do your choice. I personally will always brush my teeth and always shower and think I'm getting all the benefits. I mean, that takes all minutes. I don't know about you, but I spend 4 minutes in the shower. Right? I brush my teeth for 2 minutes. I'm not worried about that little Mickey Mouse exposure. Dry fasting, the pores of the skin absorb water from contact with the environment. Again, it's negligible. As you can imagine, the soft dry fast allows participants to drink water. Not true. No, a soft dry fast still prevents water. You do not take in water on a soft dry fast. It's still dry. How you can say I'm drinking water, but I'm going to do a dry fast is counterintuitive, right? There's a dichotomy of terms there. So make no mistake, when you consider hard versus soft, you're just talking about, do you shower? Are you in contact with water? Do you wash your hands? I'm going to flip over to this page here on Healthline. Healthline did an article on dry fasting, and I want you to notice what I've highlighted here is that there are many ways to dry fast. Dry fast can be done with any method. So before I get too deep into the options, people will often think that it's an extended period of dry fasting, that it's automatically, I don't know, like 24 hours or 36 hours. I will tell you how I do it, just so we're on the same page. I do like a bit of a longer dry fast where I'll finish my meal Sunday. Let's call it 7 p.m. Sunday at 7, I'll finish my meal. I'll down my electrolytes and my meds for the day, and then I'm done. And I do not drink again until Tuesday at noon. So that means from Sunday at dinner, let's call that 7. So from 7 till midnight is 5 hours. The entire day Monday, 24 hours. And then I go to noon. Typically, I aim for noon, probably about 10 a.m. That's when I like to work out. So I probably will have water with electrolytes at 10 a.m. So what have I got? 10, 24, and 5, 29, 39. Let's call it 40 hours. To me, that's great. And I do that once or twice a month. Once or twice a month. Now, by the way, I take off every Mondays. Every Monday for me is food free. But the dry, and that's a water, actually it's a clean fast. I allow pickle juice. I have some apple cider vinegar, coffee or tea, lots of water, electrolytes. I have that during my clean fast every Monday, right? No food Mondays, 40-hour fasting. But then once or twice of the 4 Mondays in a month, I may go dry, which means from dinner again, Sunday dinner through Tuesday 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon, depending on when I work out. That's a dry fast for me. Now that's extended. That's not at all mandatory. So here's your number one takeaway. How long does a dry fast need to be? Back to Healthline. Here we go. There are many ways to do a dry fast. Can be done with any method, including intermittent fasting. Cycles between fasting and eating. Many people do a 16-8, which restricts food intake for 16 hours and allows eating during an 8. Perfect. We all know about that. 16-8, 18-6, 20-4, Warrior, OMAD, right? 23-1. They can all be done just like you're doing right now. If you're watching this video and you're a faster, you know all about the methods of IF. Nothing changes except you limit water. So you can start out with a 12-12, go to a 14-10, work your way up to a 16-8, 18-6. Your call. That's the beauty of it. No one's talking about 40 hours like Coach Mike. I didn't start this way. Promise you I didn't. I started with 16-8 and one day thought, I'm going to try it dry. And now my favorite fast when I am fasting is 18-6. 2 meals and a snack to make sure I hit my protein in an 18-6. I can do that. Why not do it dry? Easy peasy. Notice other options. Alternate day fasting. Right? Can do the same thing every other day for 12 hours. Eat and stop. I never heard of this one before. Eat, stop, eat. In this method, you fast for 24 hours once or twice a week. Perfect. Well, shoot, just do my Mondays then. Right? Even if you're not fasting, if you're Ketonian or an Atkinsite or just a plain low carber and you want to try a fast for, I don't know, for 24 hours, for 12 hours, for 16 hours, do it dry. Try it. Right? You may know that Coach Mike is a boot camp coach and I'm a certified keto health coach. I am not a doctor. And so if you're going to do anything, I would say any dry fast, have a conversation with your doctor first. Okay, they're going to have some concerns. They're going to air some risks that you need to be aware of. Just because they may not be a fan of dry fast doesn't mean you should do it. I'm not telling you to. Again, information purposes only. Coach Mike ain't a doctor, right? So my background, as you know, is computer science, right? My BSc, it's not in medicine. This is purely a passion for me. This has become a hobby over the last 2 decades. And so I share information as I glean it from reading science just like you can. Another guy who's not a doctor is Thomas DeLauer, if you know who that is, another YouTuber, very popular. And he made a statement about dry fasting. I'm going to share with you right here, and then we'll talk about it real quick.
Is that 1 day of dry fasting is equivalent to 3 days of water fasting as far as autophagy is concerned and as far as overall cleansing of the cells is concerned.
So 3 times more powerful than water fasting. Now, I've spent the last couple of months since that video came out trying to find the source for that. I've pinged him and he won't respond. And I've done every search I can find. And it actually showed up in other places as well. For example, look at this image. So the drjockers.com website, this guy is an MD, has this video on the topic of dry fasting, up to 3 times more autophagy. The caption, I love it. It makes sense. I just wish I could find signs that support it. All cells need water to function. During a dry fast, autophagy and healing speeds up in order to liberate intracellular water to use for metabolic processes. I love that. In principle, doesn't that sound cool? I mean, we need water, and I'm going to get into right now about our body's process for making its own. If you remember basic chemistry 101, water is, do you remember? It's H2O, 2 hydrogens and an oxygen. This is where dry fasting becomes very interesting, and it's where proponents of the risks of dry fasting really fall short. They forget that it's two hydrogens and an oxygen. And the reason why that becomes so relevant is, guess what the backbone is, or guess what's in every molecule of our saturated fat that we have stored in our body? Hydrogen. Oh my God, fat stores are full of hydrogen. Guess what we breathe? Oxygen. Oh, it is so remarkable how we can put that to the body under times of stress, in particular under times of dry fasting. I want you to know right away that I don't endorse dehydration in any way, shape, or form. Let me rephrase that. I don't endorse chronic dehydration. Everything you know and have read and have heard about the fear-mongering around dehydration refers to chronic, not acute, not short-term, not temporary. That is dry fasting. And it turns out it's awesome as a stressor to induce hormetic responses, right? And I'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to finish up with a study that one I referred to from April of this year that will blow you away. So we're talking about hormetic stressors and all the responses, right? The things that improve autophagy, sirtuin boosting, telomere lengthening, longevity improvements all come from minute stressors. Fasting is a stressor. Water fasting, if you're a water faster right now, you are creating stress in the body that the body has to compensate for, and you get health benefits because of it. Dry fasting is no different. So the difference, so there is one big difference, it's that once our hydration level drops to a certain point, and you don't know what this set point is, it just happens to exist. At that point, scientists are clear that we begin to make our own metabolic water. All right, we begin to liberate fat stores, as Dr. Jocker's image showed. We liberate fat stores for the purpose of getting at the hydrogen, because then the hydrogen can be mixed with the oxygen we breathe, and the body can produce its own metabolically pure water. Now, when I say pure, I don't mean it's not like tap water. If you look at tap water, as you know, it's way more than just H2O. No, the water that our bodies create is bioengineered to be perfect for us. I want to finish off this topic about metabolic water and our ability to make it ourselves by looking at an article in Nature. Look at this in front of you. The title is Metabolic Water and Desiccation. Notice the date, though, published July 4th, 1942, almost 80 years ago. Scientists understood this process of metabolic water. Okay, how neat is that? I want to take you right into the abstract and notice this line, the complete combustion of 100 grams of fat. All right, so the oxidization, the using as energy of 100 grams of fat produces more water than it originally weighed. 100 grams of fat produces 110 grams of metabolic water. Obviously more than just the water weight of the cells, right? It would weigh more than 100 grams, the initial fat. But once the fatty acids are removed and the triglyceride, what's left produces 110 grams of water, metabolic water. Whereas 100 grams of carbs, because remember, there is some hydrogen in carbs. Carbs aren't just carbon chains. They actually have some hydrogen. Yields about half that, 55 grams of water. Isn't that slick? Right? So that's why, listen, my recommendation for you, if you want a takeaway is, if you're going to consider a dry fast, the best thing you could possibly do is be in ketosis first. You want to be either keto Atkins low carb and be in ketosis so that you have lipolysis already running the moment you start your dry fast, or go into a dry fast from a wet fast. Okay, maybe do 12 or 16 hours of a water fast and then do the next 12 or 16 hours a dry fast so that you put your body into ketosis, which means you have access to all your stored adipose fat cells. Right? You don't want to have to wait. If you can do a dry fast, think about that for a second, and just came off a SAD diet, and you all of a sudden have to wait the first 6, 8, 10 hours to get into ketosis before you get access to your fat store so you can make this metabolic water. Not ideal. All right. And for the reason of, notice the next line, just to finish off this topic, fat reserves and fatty foods. Well, obviously not fatty foods if you're fasting. It just refers to metabolic water. But fat reserves are believed to be particularly valuable as a protection against dehydration. So good. There's your takeaway. I mean, no wonder I had no trouble with a 40-hour fast, and I don't have any of the symptoms of dehydration. I don't have any of those issues, not even thirst on a dry fast, because you're already ketonic. I'm already using fatty acids and ketones like it's nothing. Lipolysis is tickety-boo for me, which makes this a simple process. Right? I love it. Hey, listen, I'm going to switch gears real quick. I got one more thing to talk about, introduce you to a doctor named Mindy Pelz, Dr. Mindy. And then we'll get to that study I told you about and all the benefits that come from that study of a dry fast study. Brand new science. Dr. Mindy runs a fasting clinic. She's a full-fledged MD, but she likes to specialize in helping people via fasting. She's a big believer in body heal thyself. And so she's familiar with all methodologies of fasting. Everything from time restricted to intermittent to extended and dry fasting. I'm going to show you her webpage real quick. In fact, let's do that. Let's flip over to her webpage, and I'll show you what you definitely want to check out. Her YouTube channel if you're interested in dry fasting. Okay? drmindypeltz.com is the title. In fact, I went right to the benefits of dry fasting. And I'm just going to show you a few. She talks about what does it mean, not even water. What is dry fasting? She runs through the differences between hard and soft dry fasting, as we talked about. What are the benefits?
So the first is there's several studies showing that dry fasting is a great way to lower inflammation. The second thing is that dry fasting increases BDNF. BDNF is like miracle grow for the brain. And BDNF will help to regenerate dendrites, which are the messengers of thoughts and memory and information in the brain. And it will also, BDNF will upregulate serotonin. The other thing we know is that from research is that dry fasting does have a tendency to bring your blood sugar down more efficiently. And then the other two really surprising effects of dry fast is that dry fasting is known to balance your cholesterol levels. It's also has been known to prevent osteoporosis.
I'm going to stick with Dr. Mindy for two more quick quotes. One is going to be on, is there a difference between dry and wet fasting as far as these benefits go? In fact, let's just jump on that one real quick, and then we'll come back for the second one.
So these are effects that we don't typically see with the other fasts. So I like it as part of building your fasting lifestyle.
Cool, right? So some benefits unique to dry fasting. Who would have guessed? I don't know what you guys, but I'm learning stuff, so I hope you are as well. But second, how do we incorporate it into our routine, into our schedule? We talked about how it's just another arrow in our quiver. How should we employ it? Let's see what Dr. Mindy says to finish off this topic.
You would want to throw in a dry fast maybe once a week, maybe once a month, but it should go into your fasting routine.
Well, here it is. Oh my God, I'm so excited to share this study with you. If you've stuck around for the 17 minutes to get here, God bless you, because you are going to be rewarded right now. Never mind the weight loss or fat loss features of dry fasting that we've talked about, how they could be as many as 300% better or 3 times better than water fasting, and who knows where it fits in there, but let's just go with that. But oh my God, the health benefits. I'm going to blow you away right now. So this study, I'm quoting it in Science Direct. You can see it's from the Journal of Proteomics, and it was from this year. It happened last year, but it's April 15th of 2020. This is brand spanking new science. Notice the title of the article, or the study, was Intermittent Fasting. Check this out. Oh my God, this is so good. From dawn to sunset for 30 consecutive days is associated with anti-cancer proteomic signature and upregulates key regulatory proteins of glucose and lipid metabolism, circadian clock, DNA repair, cytoskeleton remodeling, immune system, and cognitive function in healthy subjects. So let's just stop for a second and have a look at this. It was a 30-day trial, and these participants fasted from dawn to sunset, roughly between 14 and 15 hours. Now, you may have already guessed, if you have some friends who are of the Muslim faith, you would have already guessed that this is a group of 14 Muslims out of Baylor University. And they were already, as part of their religious beliefs, going to fast for Ramadan, the month of June. This is something they do every year for religious reasons. But it was between every day, for 30 days, between 14 and 15 hours of dry fasting. Okay, so again, when we talk about dry fasting, don't think for a second it has to be 20, 24, 48, 72 hours. No, this is, I can't wait to show you the results. I'm going to skip right down to the highlights. So first, it was the first human serum proteomics study, which means serum meaning they took blood the whole time, of 30-day intermittent fasting from dawn to sunset in healthy subjects. 30-day intermittent fasting from dawn to sunset associated with serum proteome protective. Doesn't quite make sense, the grammar, but against cancer. So cancer improvements. Talk about the health benefits again. I'm not going to draw your attention in any way, shape, or form to fat loss. This is 100% about the health benefits of dry fasting. We talked about the hormetic effect of hormesis, which means whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Oh my God, this is it. Intermittent fasting number 3, from dawn to sunset for 30 days, upregulates proteins protective against obesity, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. 30 days induces key regulatory proteins of DNA repair and immune system, and upregulates proteins protective against Alzheimer's and neuropsychiatric disorders. So to summarize the results of this study, again, just think about it for yourself and see if you can figure out a way to apply this. All right, 14 or 15 roughly hours of dry fasting every day. You want to talk about the risk, in social media people will talk about the risk of dry fasting. How about this one? How about nothing for 14 hours, 30 days in a row? I don't know what you and I are thinking is going to happen. I don't know what you think our risks are. I speak about the lack of risks and the absolute great well-being of 40 hours, but look at this. Talk about intermittent dry fasting. 30 days, and by the way, a billion Muslims do this every June for Ramadan. A billion do this intermittent fasting right around the globe. Okay, so if you know any, ask them about Ramadan. They'll tell you from dawn till dusk, nothing is allowed. So let's finish off by talking about the benefits. All right, again, just by way of identifying them, what they were. How about this one? How about the down-regulating of anti-cancer genes? And we're talking about expression at the gene level. We're talking about epigenetics here. That dry fasting substantially down-regulated the anti-cancer proteomic signature. How about that it upregulates DNA repair? I mean, remarkable DNA repair, telomere lengthening, immune system. We talked about how it upregulates glucose metabolism, right? It fights against protection against obesity, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. It regulates lipid metabolism, right? Better users of stored body fat. They access their stored body fat every day. Remarkable. Upregulates immune system. Right? We talked about that as well. It goes hand in hand with DNA repair, immune system. How about the circadian clock? Right? Because of the way they ate. I would not have guessed this. I would have guessed that eating before dawn and eating after dark would have kind of messed up their circadian clocks, and yet they saw improvement across the board in them all. And cognitive function, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, and Alzheimer's conditions were all markers in all way, shape, or form. The enzymes were improved by intermittent dry fasting. And lastly, blood pressure management. Who would have guessed? Who could have guessed that something as simple as dry fasting for 14 hours a day, 14 to 15, would improve blood pressure management? I want to finish with two comments about this study. Number one, remember how I said I'm not going to focus on the fat loss, and more so the health benefits of this 14-hour dry fast over 30 days? I'll tell you why that is. It's because not everyone lost weight. Results section, it said that importantly, these findings occurred in the absence of any calorie restriction and significant weight loss. See, the reason is that these followers of Ramadan, they don't follow a special diet. They're not keto, Atkins, low carb. They don't, watch what they eat, if you will, on a regular calorie basis. And they certainly aren't low carb or keto, meaning that they did this while eating normally, while eating their regular fare and with ad libitum, without any calorie restriction. Right? They had to get all their calories in 2 meals after dusk and pre-dawn. So that's why there was no calorie restriction, and some of them didn't see any weight loss. Of the 14, there were a couple that stayed neutral and a couple that gained weight. And yet the health markers, the improvements, the proteomic signatures all improved anyway. What a takeaway. Now, what does that mean for you and I? What if we are low carb? What if you're like me and you're keto and you eat ultra low carb? What if you're carnivore, paleo? Right? You would expect to see even better. It makes sense, right? It seems logical. You see even better markers, better improvements in those markers than these people did. Secondly, what does that mean for you and I? I think logically the takeaway is that we don't have to do this regimen exact to get these benefits. It seems logical. And again, no study was done doing this including 8 hours of sleeping. But it seems to me we have an easier deal of it. If we start our fast at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. and we don't eat till noon the following day, which is your typical 18-6, I can't help but think we come out ahead and we get, I guess where I'm going is I don't believe that all these improvements, all these gene expressions and epigenetical improvements that these fasters saw can't be unique. I don't believe it's unique because they ate pre-dawn and post-dusk. I believe we have to get those same benefits, which again suits you and I just fine if we decide to include 8 hours of sleeping in our dry fast. How much slicker is that? All right, so if you're going to try a dry fast, include that 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep. Why wouldn't you? And it only makes sense that we would still get some of these benefits. Cool? If this information wasn't compelling enough for you to try dry fasting, don't worry about it. My job was just to entertain, to provide some information that you will do with as you please. I can tell you personally, I am a fan of dry fasting and will always do it once or twice a month, right, for my 40 hours. The purpose of this, though, was just to broaden your horizons a bit. That it doesn't have to be extended. It doesn't have to be 24, let alone 40 hours. You can definitely fit it into your normal 14, in this case 14 for the study, but 16, 18, or 20 hours. Give it a shot. Try it. Try it. Definitely see your doctor if you have any questions or concerns about anything I brought up. Send them the clip. By the way, here's what you should do. If you're really considering it and you do want to have your doctor look at it, text them, email them, and send them this link where I quote from several doctors, including Dr. Mindy Peltz. Let your doctor get this information. Let them then turn around and say, I like it, I don't like it, but here's why. Ask them for their signs. Don't let a doctor just turn to you and say, yeah, but there are risks. Identify them and quantify them, and then you have to make a personal decision if you truly believe the risks are something that you need to worry about, and if so, mitigate them, right? Do your best to reduce them. Don't go right after a 24-hour fast. Start with a 14 or a 16 or an 18, right? Anyway, on that note, I hope you got some good information. If you did, please do leave a comment down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, man. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the video, but do hit that like button if you learned anything, and do again, feel free to share it. But on that note, any comments, any questions about anything I left out, anything I said that you want to get follow up on, you know how to do it. Put the comments down below. The best comments turn into videos just like this one. On that note, I'll see you in the next one.